I am so grateful to be here with you all. Each of you are on the front lines right now, using your voice, your power, your position to meet this moment in history. We are gathering in the dark. The future feels dark. And so I come to you with a question I hold in my heart. What if? What if this darkness is not only the darkness of the tomb, but the darkness of the womb? What if our America is not dead, but a country still waiting to be born? What if the story of America is one long labor, a series of expansions and contractions, and this is our turn in the cycle? What if all of our ancestors are behind us now? Those who survived genocide and colonization, slavery and sufferings untold, they are behind you now, whispering in your ear, "You are brave. You are brave." What if this is our greatest transition? In birthing labor, transition is the final stage, the most dangerous stage. The contractions, the crises come so fast there's barely time to breathe. It feels like dying. And yet it is a stage that precedes the birth of a new world. Beloveds, we are in transition now. And we must heed the wisdom of the midwife. Breathe and push. So I know, you've got to push. But first, we've got to breathe. So I want you to place your feet on the earth for just a moment with me. Let your eyes close. Just feel the earth beneath your feet and honor the indigenous ancestors who walked the soil before us, the Piscataway peoples, the Nagoshtang peoples, the way that they survived apocalyptic times and still lift their gaze to sing songs of courage. We honor them. I invite you now to think of one ancestor who represents courage to you. Imagine them behind you. So proud you are here. Notice what courage feels like in your body. Keep them at your back. Picture now a child in your life who brings you joy. Picture them in front of you, smiling at you. Notice what joy feels like in your body. Place your hand on your heart. You are the link between ancestors and descendants, between past and future. May you receive the medicine you need to be brave with your life. Let it come and let it go. You can open your eyes. I've just returned from Minneapolis, where I was on the ground with faith leaders at the invitation of my dear friend, Reverend Susie Hayward, and a coalition of faith leaders at March, Minnesota. When they asked me to join them on the ground, I thought I was prepared for what I would see. Los Angeles is my home city. LA is the first city this administration chose to target, sending a force of masked men into our streets to terrorize our children, rip our families apart. I saw my neighbors disappear, and so we took to the streets. And our protests were met with astonishing militarized force. I saw fellow protesters beaten, maimed, trampled by cavalry, and we as faith leaders put our bodies between protesters and men with machine guns, with flowers in our arms, singing the old songs of love. I thought I was prepared for what I would see in Minneapolis as we saw ICE raids spread across the country, moving from Chicago to Portland. But when I arrived on the ground in Minneapolis, the scale and the pervasiveness of the brutality was unlike anything I could have imagined. Reverend Susie welcomed me to an occupied city. I did not understand that an American city could feel occupied, meaning you're moving through a field where you are proximate to brutality at any instant. Everyone I spoke with had either been brutalized by our federal government or knew someone who had. Everyone I spoke with had a loved one or a neighbor who had been abducted, arrested, or gone missing. And so we as faith leaders asked, what can we do? What can we do? 1,000 of us showed up across the country last week, 1 week ago today, to ask, what can we do? And so Reverend Susie and her faith leaders, they sent 100 faith leaders to the airport in Minneapolis to get arrested, to protest deportation flights. They sent another 200 clergy all across the city to observe ICE operations, to act as legal observers. The children before my eyes were my little ones, and I made a promise to my husband that I would get on that plane and go home to them. So I chose what I thought was the safe option. I decided to join a bus of faith leaders to a pilgrimage site. Turns out there's no safe option in an occupied city. We went to George Floyd Memorial Square, and I was there with Angela Harrelson, George Floyd's auntie, a woman I know and love. The last time I was with her, I asked her what gives her courage, and she said George's last words. She said, I am a nurse. I know how much strength he had to pull from inside of him to say those words, I can't breathe. When we heard agony, she heard courage. And that gave her strength to keep going. And so I was there with her again on the spot where her nephew bled to death. And I asked, he was choked to death. And I asked, what does it mean for you that Renee Good was killed less than a mile away from where your nephew took his last breaths? And she said, it was re-traumatizing. Re-traumatizing. The faith leaders got on the bus to go to the memorial site for Renee Good, and because it was so cold, Angela and I got in her car and followed the bus to Renee Good's memorial together. And when we got out there, she said, it's a white woman this time. It's about humanity now. It was always about humanity. But now we know, the whole world knows that we must stand on the side of humanity. And what we need, what she said, what we need is to bring a mustard seed of faith, just a mustard seed, that we can pull through this. The faith leaders got back on the bus to go back to the church, and I was there with Angela, and it was so heavy, and I needed to hold my own mustard seed of faith, so I stayed. I stayed to breathe, to take in the stuffed animals and the flowers and Renee's portrait. That is when an ICE vehicle was spotted following the bus of faith leaders. ICE had been trailing us that entire morning. A woman in her 20s named Clay spotted the ICE vehicle and came up and drove behind the ICE vehicle to watch, to witness. ICE spotted her, swarmed her car, shattered her glass. She's holding onto the steering wheel. Her partner is holding on to her. No orders to disperse, nothing but pure intimidation, tried to pull her out of the car, and neighbors in the street showed up within moments with their cameras, watching, witnessing, and because of all those neighbors, ICE gave up and left. Clay has glass in her cheek, in her eyes, in her throat, and she is taken to the church where my friends Corey and Anise are the medics who treat her. They then come to me, tell me what happened, and they are shaken, and I hold them. Minnesota is the new ground zero for the scale of brutality this administration is willing to inflict on immigrants, on people of color, and on the neighbors who stand up to protect them. The very next morning, Alex Preddy was murdered a few miles away from us. Renee Good and Alex Preddy were killed for doing what tens of thousands of Minnesotans agreed to do, which was to watch, to witness. Witnessing is a shield. Witnessing says you cannot do this to our neighbors in the dark. Witnessing says you cannot disappear our people and call it routine. And witnessing is now so dangerous. Renee Good and Alex Preddy's murders are an extension of the violence that people of color have long survived on this soil.
Come on now.
When they call you illegal, when they call you criminal, when they call you savage, when they call you terrorist or domestic terrorist, they are saying we can do anything to you or allow anything to be done to you and call it your fault. But that relies on the rest of us being silent. And Minnesota decided not to be silent. Minnesota decided to show up. That moment, that morning, I saw the network of care. Think about it. Community leaders protecting immigrant communities call us as faith leaders to witness them. ICE targets us. A woman we do not know witnesses to protect us. She's the one brutalized. And all of those people from the street came out to witness and protect her. None of us knew each other. None of us had to know each other to be able to have the audacity to say, you are my brother, you are my sister, you are my kin. This is what it means for me to be human. This is who I want to be in the story. I saw that way of being all over Minneapolis and all across the state of Minnesota. Networks of care, block by block, heart to heart. People who have no obvious reason to love one another, standing up for each other, protecting each other. Minnesota has created an underground civil society, teaching children how to read and write in hybrid underground schools because schools are not safe, delivering groceries and supplies because stores are not safe, walking each other's dogs, getting the mail because streets are not safe, providing midwifery to mamas and babies because hospitals are not safe. One woman was late to our convening because she was delivering breast milk to a 3-month-old whose mother had just been abducted. These networks of care are love in action. And it looks like this. With every act of care, the roots go deeper, grow stronger, more fortified. This is our most powerful resistance to authoritarianism. But it is also so much more than resistance. This is a picture of the world that could be. We are practicing the world we want in the space between us, a world that is abundant and free, safe and whole. That is the blueprint of love that Minnesota is showing all of us now. You see, the root of authoritarianism is lovelessness. They are depending on the rest of us to turn away, to shut down our hearts, to relinquish our humanity, to retreat into whatever fear or fatigue or despair that we feel. But love, revolutionary love, is the choice to see no stranger, to leave no one outside of our circle of care, to risk ourselves for one another, to show up with whistles when they have guns. And that kind of love is a power that this administration does not understand and cannot defeat. Revolutionary love is the call of our times. So this is what I want you all to know. It will get darker. Cruelty is the point. Chaos is the means. Helplessness is the desired result. But Minnesota is showing us that we are not helpless. The majority of us oppose authoritarianism. We are the majority. We must act like the majority. And that means building communities that are so anchored in love, so activated by joy, that the cruelty that drives authoritarianism cannot take root. It means taking this blueprint that Minnesota has given us, back to our communities, to our cities, because what I heard over and over again from everyone I talked to is that what is happening in Minneapolis is coming for your city if it isn't already there. So take our blueprint, put it into action right where you are. And when we're doing that, we're practicing the world that we want in the space between us. We are enacting a dream of a world where you see my child as yours and I see yours as mine. And we're showing the country, we're showing the world that dream. Our dream is more powerful than your nightmare. And that brings me to each and every one of you. You are the lawyers and the plaintiffs. You are the press and elected leaders. You are the faith leaders and the organizers. And yes, you are parents and friends and daughters and sons. You are family. You are kin. You are American. You are human. You are on the front lines, and you have a role to play, an essential role to play that only you can play to meet this moment in history. So I ask you, how will you lead with love? I want to leave you with a tool, a compass, to put that love into action. You each were given a sticker that looks like this. As a civil rights leader, I have spent 20 years in the trenches organizing around hate. I have made a promise, a vow, to spend the rest of my life organizing around love. It is an ancestral call. It's come down thousands of years on the lips of spiritual teachers and indigenous healers and social reformers, the call to love. When did you first hear it? And we know that love is not something sentimental and anemic, not a rush of feeling that comes and goes, ebbs and flows. No, Minnesota is showing us that love is sweet labor, fierce, bloody, imperfect, life-giving, a choice we make again and again. And when we choose to love like that, when it is dangerous, when we are brave with our love, then our love becomes revolutionary. That is why I believe revolutionary love is the call of our times, and that each of us has a role to labor in that love. And so we developed this tool, this compass. It is a compass that is born of deep evidence, an evidence-based tool drawing from research from neuroscience, ethics, history, psychology. It is also deeply shaped and infused with ancestral wisdom. I invite you to take this compass into your life, to use it as you wish, and I'm going to show you how. So take it into your hands, and you'll see revolutionary love is the choice to enter into labor for others, opponents, and ourselves. You see that outer ring? The way this compass works is that you point it to whomever you wish to practice loving. So let's begin with an other. Imagine an other in front of you. This orientation is called See No Stranger, and it begins with the act of wonder. Imagine being able to move through your life each day, and any face on the street, on the subway, on the screen, you can say to yourself, sister, brother, kin, you are a part of me I do not yet know. It is a simple act, but it is a radical act. For our minds are wired to see us and them, but we are able to retrain our eye to see all others as family. Who we see as one of us shapes what we do, who we stand up for, what policies we support, and whether demagogues win. Minnesota has created a new identity, an expanded we, and it looks like all of us, one family. What does it mean for us as Americans to reclaim that identity as one people? It begins with opening our hearts to each other. When you lead with wonder, when you open yourself to other stories, and that leads to that next practice, which is to grieve with others. There's so much grief right now. Where is grief in your body? There's no fixing grief. There's only surviving it, and we can only survive it when we do so together. When people who have no obvious reason to love one another come together to grieve, then they gave rise to new relationships, new solidarities, and new movements. And so, how are you brave with your grief? It's not secondary in our movements, it's vital to gather with people to grieve together. For when we grieve together, we gain information for how to fight for one another, and everyone has a role in the fight, whether it's delivering those groceries or standing in the street with those whistles. That's what Minnesota has shown us. Wondering about others, grieving with others, fighting for others. That's the blueprint. That's the blueprint for deep solidarity. Rooted not in the logic of exchange, I show up for you, so you show up for me. Deep solidarity is rooted in love. I show up for you because you are my brother, you are my sister, you are my neighbor, you are my kin, and that kind of love can survive any news cycle and any regime. What do you need more of in your life in this moment? We're going to take that compass and now point it to someone in your mind, a group in your mind who is an opponent. All right. Notice I don't use the word enemy. An enemy is a fixed and permanent identity. An opponent is anyone whose ideas, words, or actions oppose your own. They may stay your opponent this whole lifetime, but they might not, and just thinking that is a revolutionary act. This orientation is called tend the wound, but it begins with tending your own wound. It begins with honoring our rage. Folks think that rage is the opposite of love. No, indifference is the opposite of love. Rage connects us with our ability to fight for who and what we love. Honor your rage. Where is rage in your body? The solution is not to suppress your rage or to let it explode. The solution is to process your rage in safe containers. And that's what we saw in Minnesota, people gathering in those church basements, drumming, singing, shaking, processing that energy together. One faith leader told me, I can't be in the street right now because I have so much rage. I know that I need to process it here before I go out there. You see, when we move that energy in community through our bodies, that righteous fury, we can ask ourselves, what information does our rage carry? What does it say about what's important to me? And how do I wish to channel this energy for what I do in the world? I call that harnessed energy divine rage. The aim of divine rage is not vengeance. The aim of divine rage is to reorder the world. There is a question hanging in the air right now, in every room I'm in. And the question is nonviolence working? Minnesota is showing us how and why nonviolence works. Violence is the language of this administration. Violence is the language of ICE. Violence is the language of authoritarianism. If we respond in their chosen language, we give them exactly what they want. Nonviolence is disciplined, strategic, powerful, morally grounded, and it is the most powerful tool we have when treated as a craft. It is how we do not become what we are fighting against, and it's what invites that way of being that shows, models what a beloved community looks like and feels like. And so you might be someone in a position where you need to stay here in the compass, creating containers for grief, creating containers for rage, driving all that energy to creative, nonviolent, coordinated action. But you might be someone who is in a position to go to this next practice, which is to wonder even about our opponents, to dare to listen to them, to listen for their story and listen for their wound. There are no such thing as monsters in this world. There are only human beings who are wounded, who act out of their fear, insecurity, greed, rage. That does not make them any less dangerous, but when we see their wound, they lose power over us. We become free. Instead of reacting endlessly from our trauma, we get to sit in our deepest wisdom and respond from a place of love. I was out in those streets with a frail man who told me that he had stage 4 cancer. But he was in those streets because that's what it meant to stand for peace now. And he got really quiet. And he said, imagine the pain of so many of those ICE agents with their masks and their guns, and how this administration gave them a target for their pain. They're the ones to blame. They're the ones to blame. He got really quiet, and he began to imagine what the Truth and Reconciliation Commissions might look like years down the line that offered a pathway back to community, back to wholeness. I know this is hard labor, and courageous, and it is not for everyone. But I know that this is who I want to be in the story. In Los Angeles, when we were out at the federal building where they're caging our people, we brought flowers to the immigrant families, and because no one is outside of our circle of care, I laid flowers at the feet of the ICE agents. They are our brothers too, even if they have forgotten it. I turned around to leave, and that first agent gestures for me to come back. He's the one with the gun, so I come back to him. I'm shaking. And he says, "Thank you." And he puts out his hand. What do I do? In the street, you held your baton over me. You pointed your rifle at me. And now you're extending your hand to me? What do I do? Revolutionary love is to block your actions with one hand and extend the other, with the hope that you will one day take it, or your children will take it. For the brief high of domination is nothing compared to the infinite love and joy of true community. So I took his hand. I don't know whether that man will stop hurting our people, but I want to be the one who believes in that possibility. That is who I want to be in the story. I want to come to my front line with flowers. And here's the thing, the front line is everywhere. The front line is in the courts and in the media rooms. The front line is in the classrooms and the houses of worship. The front line is in those kitchen tables where we're having the hard, beautiful, wrenching conversations. The front line is your own heart. What does it mean for you to come to your front line with flowers? When we do so, when we pay attention to everyone's wounds like that, we gain the information for how to reimagine a world on the other side of this ash that leaves no one behind, not even them. And in that reimagining, we are able to lift up a vision of a world that they can see themselves in. That dream that is beautiful and powerful and irresistible. That dream that diminishes their nightmare. Beloveds, this is long labor, courageous labor. You get to decide who you are on the compass. What is your role? We're all part of a larger community, a larger ecosystem. But just remember, because this is long and courageous labor, we got to turn that compass one more time so that it is facing you. How do we love ourselves? This is the feminist intervention. This is the wisdom of the midwife who says, breathe, my love, and then push, and then breathe again. She doesn't say push all the way, and I know it feels like you just got to push nonstop. It's coming, the news is coming nonstop. You have to push nonstop, but that is how we begin to burn out, to opt out. We lose our lives. No, we need to last in the labor. And so what does it mean to pour into your own body the love that you are pouring out into your communities? What does it mean for you to breathe every day? How are you breathing? Are you breathing with music, meditation, prayer, praise, song? How are you breathing? A faith leader just got arrested at that airport and then told me I had to go to the trees after that. I had to breathe with the trees. I had to breathe in what they were breathing out. I had to remember the magic and the mystery and the beauty and the wonder of being alive right here, right now. Mother Earth has us. Will breathe into us. Will breathe into you. How do you breathe? Who do you breathe with? Who do you help breathe? And the deeper we breathe every day, the deeper we breathe, the more we're able to show up and push. What is your particular push right now? And just like we don't go to battle alone, we don't give birth alone, who is next to you holding your hand as you're breathing and pushing? And then there will be a moment where you say, I can't, it's too hard. And any midwife knows the I can't moment is right before the miracle happens. And so you are in transition. We are in transition right now. We have to transition ourselves as we're transitioning our country, our species. And so I invite you to think about what you need to withstand those fires. And remember this, we might not live to see the results of our labor. I want to live to see a nation that is safe and free, a multiracial democracy where all belong. I want to live to see a planet where we know how to live with each other. I want to see it. I want to see it. When I close my eyes, I dream it, but I might not live to see it, just like those ancestors did not live to see us. Our sacred task is to stay faithful to the labor. And when we labor in love, we let in joy. Joy is the gift of love. I know we hear in the streets like joy is an act of resistance. It goes so much deeper than that. I traveled to societies that had survived authoritarian regimes across the world this last year. I sat at the feet of Black Candomblé elders in Brazil. I sat at the feet of Mayan women at the sites of mass graves in Guatemala. And every time they tell a story that is horrific, you know what they do next? They pull out their drums and they begin to dance and they begin to sing, singing their freedom. We are free inside. We are already free, and in that freedom is joy. In the Sikh tradition, it's called Chardvikala, ever-rising joy, even darkness, ever-rising spirits. How will you protect your joy every day? In joy, we see darkness with new eyes. And so I return to that question in my heart. Is this the darkness of the tomb or the darkness of the womb? Beloveds, it is both. After you leave here, you will find a moment where you feel alone and it is dark again, standing in all of that trauma and all of that pain, and you will taste the ash in your mouth. In that moment, I invite you to lift your gaze and realize that you are not alone in the dark. I invite you to see into that darkness what is wanting to be born. In Minnesota, I saw a glimpse of the world wanting to be born. Here in the space between us, I see the world wanting to be born. What needs to be born in you to be able to live and believe in that future? For this is what we know to be true. You will be an ancestor one day. They will gather in spaces like this and they will summon you. You will be the one behind them. But if we show up now with our whole hearts and with all of our love, what they will inherit from this time will not be our fear or our trauma. It will be our courage, born of joy. Thank you so much. Thank you.